Alright, you've waited long enough. I've been comparing the two options, and now I'm ready to give my final judgment in Clonezilla versus Acronis. I had a little time to kick the tires these past few days when I was imaging several workstations, and I think I've got a good feel for both different types of software and where their strengths are and where their weaknesses are. So the question is which drive imaging software might be the best for you? Well, that's what we're going to find out in this episode of An In-Depth Look. Before we get this show on the road, I'd like to thank GoDaddy.com for sponsoring this episode of An In-Depth Look. If you use my code Linux, you can save 10% off any order at GoDaddy. And if you use my code Linux20, you'll save 20% off shared hosting. And I gotta say, the shared hosting at GoDaddy, good stuff. Been using it for several years, I think, actually. Almost 3 years myself. I have several shared hosted GoDaddy servers, and I mirror episodes across them so I get nice fast downloads when people click the links at jupiterbroadcasting.com. Anyways, super appreciate it when you use those codes, Linux or Linux20, at GoDaddy.com, because it shows them that people want to support our show by supporting them, and then we keep getting the monies from the GoDaddy, and we keep making these shows, and everybody's happy. Okay, let's move on. So, I should give you a little background. I've spent the last day, yesterday, imaging 3 Dell workstations, and I imaged them with Clonezilla, and then I tried imaging them with Acronis. I actually think I looked it up online. I found some audio. The people online, at least in that How Do You Pronounce Stuff website, pronounce it as Acronis. Acronis is also how I've heard it pronounced, so I'm just going to try to interchange them, so that way I only upset half of the people for half the time. So I imaged 3 Dell workstations, and I think overall, I was imaging with Windows XP and Office 2003 and all the latest updates, because, you know, with Windows XP there's like a billion updates, and Office 2003 there's like a billion updates, so just even imaging that far, you save yourself like an hour worth of updating and rebooting. And this is for a client of mine who, basically, they're all the same identical hardware, so I didn't really have the experience of moving across different types of chipsets and network cards and video cards, so I can't really speak from that perspective. But from an identical hardware perspective, both products did a really efficient and sufficient job. With Clonezilla, what I did is I booted off of a System Rescue CD, the Linux System Rescue CD. Go Google System Rescue CD if you haven't seen that before. And then I had a USB drive plugged in, and I Clonezilla'd to that USB drive. And it worked, for all intents and purposes, fine. I was able to clone the master boot record. These Dell computers have like a utility partition on them, and I wasn't sure if I should grab that or not, so I went ahead and I got that as well. The Clonezilla was sufficient. It definitely did the job. Now, the thing I noticed about basically with Acronis, I installed it inside Windows, and then I created I had several options. One option was to create like an imaging rescue partition, and this partition would automatically resize your main drive and then install all the Acronis tools into that partition. And then when you're booting up at some point, like say a week down or a year down the road, whatever it is, and your operating system all of a sudden gets all borked, you can hit F11 at boot up, and Acronis or Acronis will re-image from that utility partition. That's handy in my line of work for my clients, because if they come up and be like, oh my god, I have this horrible virus, I'll be like, hit F11, call me back in a half hour. But for us at home, especially when we're IT geeks and stuff like that, I don't necessarily think that particular part is handy. So since I'm recording this for us and not so much for my clients, I'm going to not really give the win to Acronis in the fact that it can have a utility partition. And I suppose if you were Mr. Cool Guy, you could make your own Linux utility partition with Clonezilla in it. So that'd be totally manual, or Acronis is completely automated. But that's another story. Okay, so when I installed Acronis inside Windows, I had the option to build a boot media and basically just generated an ISO image. And this ISO image is like only 50 megabytes, but it's a totally slimmed down, I think, Windows XP environment. You boot into it, it starts up a really low level. I think it uses something called BART PE, which lets you make actual Windows environment live CDs. And it's a really stripped down Windows XP. All you get is basically the basic Windows desktop environment. Like, you don't even get icons or anything like that, but you just get enough so that the Acronis program can start. And then you can tell Acronis, I want to connect to a network share, I want to connect to a USB hard drive, I want to read a partition, I want to I want to clone from another drive in the machine. This is really dead simple. Like, I was able to nail this my first way through, no problems. The only thing, when you consider Clonezilla, is it is a Linux environment, and you do have to have some familiarity with some basic Linux commands just to get started. Obviously not a lot, but if I was going into Clonezilla never really using Linux, that would have been an issue for me. That would have been a hurdle I would have had to go over in order to use Clonezilla. Whereas with Acronis, yeah, I guess I would have needed to know Windows skills to an extent, point and click, but I think probably everybody has that. So I'm going to give the win to Acronis in terms of interface and ease of use. I know that's going to upset some of you out there, but the fact of the matter is I could give Acronis to somebody that's never imaged a drive before in their life, and they're going to be able to figure out how to use Acronis the first time through. And it does have some really nice features. It can save to network shares, and Clonezilla can too, but you kind of have to manually do that. They both have their network imaging server. I think Clonezilla is a little easier to get going. There's less overhead or baggage, I guess you might say. With Clonezilla, you get the daemon going and you connect to it and you image to it and it saves to a spot. On Acronis, you have to install this entire server deal and you have to have all this other stuff configured ahead of time. It's a lot more weight to get Acronis going in a server environment. Once it's done, it's very nice though. I liked it quite a bit. But with Clonezilla, I think Clonezilla, just in terms of just doing a dead simple network imaging, I think Clonezilla might actually be a little more straightforward. So for network imaging, I'm giving the win to Clonezilla. For UI, I'm giving the win to Acronis. It's probably not too much of a surprise there, considering Acronis has been around for a really long time and they have dedicated UI designers, etc., etc. Let's talk about speed. Both were very fast. I was imaging to a 5400 USB 2.0, 5400 RPM USB 2.0 external hard drive. And both went very fast. Acronis might have been slightly faster. It seemed almost unreally fast, almost unreliably fast. Like, I thought, I have a bad image, because it imaged the machine in 6 minutes. That seems crazy fast. It wasn't a huge install. It was only probably a 13 gig XP install after I installed the updates in Office and some basic apps. But still, 6 minutes to an external drive seemed wicked fast. I think Clonezilla was 17 minutes, if I recall. So there's a little bit of a difference there. But the Acronis image was good. It was just fast, and I liked that quite a bit. So now my combo is essentially the same. I'm using these drive imaging software. Essentially, I'm using them identically. Clonezilla has a boot CD, and then I launch Clonezilla, and I have it restore the image from a USB hard drive. I'm doing the same thing with Acronis. I boot off of the little BART PE CD that it made, and then I have a USB drive attached, and I'm restoring from that. Now, originally, Chris was going to, that's me, Chris was going to boot completely off the USB hard drive and restore off the USB hard drive. I never really got to that stage. I was going to set up like a basic Linux install on the USB hard drive and then go into the BIOS of the PC I'm working on and say boot off USB hard drive and then boot it up, and Bob's your uncle. I'd have an entire environment running off one drive. I eventually will get to that point, but since I was trying Acronis at the same time, that really wasn't an option because Acronis needs a Windows environment. Both these were imaging NTFS drives with no problems. I didn't try on anything else because I was doing this for my day job. But I believe both of them can do extended 3. I know Clonezilla can do extended 3, which is the Linux, the standard Linux file format is, or file system format is extended 3. I think both of them can do that. So it's close, but here's what it comes down to. Clonezilla is free, right? And if you're just imaging your home system, that's nice. Now, here's the gotcha though. A lot of hard drives, well not a lot, but there's several USB hard drives on the market that are shipping with like a personal edition of Acronis or Acronis. And if you get one of those hard drives, it comes with a copy. So that's essentially free other than you paid for the cost of the hard drive. Okay. In terms of development, I think the win goes to Clonezilla. They seem to be improving at a rate faster than Acronis is. Though when Acronis releases, it's like these big flashy updates. But they're definitely chasing the Microsoft tail, whereas Clonezilla is more chasing the tech enthusiast tail, and they're trying to support as much stuff as possible. And they're more evolutionary releases, whereas Acronis is, boom, here's a big release, super exciting. Look at this press release. Oh, by the way, we support Vista now. Or, oh, by the way, we're going to support Windows 7. So it's a different style. For me, because I'm comfortable with some Linux commands, because I'm a little bit extra geeky, and because I'm cheap, I'm going to go with Clonezilla. you might want to go with Clonezilla 2 or Fog. I did an episode on Fog if you haven't checked that out yet, but Fog's for a little bit of a bigger network, I think. But if you get Acronis for free with a drive, or you've got access to it, or you want to drop like the $80 it is for the personal, I think it's $80 for like the home user version for Acronis, then it's worth it. You're not wasting your money. They're both great products, but in the end, for the technical crowd, I'm gonna give the win to Clonezilla. But if you're in more of a Windows only shop, or if you're working with a lot of new technicians, entry level noobs, probably Acronis for them. So I think they're both great products, but it's just whatever suits your needs. All right, everybody. If you have any questions about this roundup of 2 products, shoot me a Twitter message at twitter.com/Chris, LAS, or hit me up on email, chris@jupiterbroadcasting.com, and send those in, because I think pretty soon I'm going to do sort of a listener and viewer question roundup and response, because I haven't done one of those for a little bit, so I think it's time we get into that. So shoot those over to me if you have any questions. In the meantime, big announcement. If you've stuck around in the video for this long, wow, props. First of all, remember we have the Popcorn Hour giveaway. You just have to subscribe to our channel. Once we hit 3,000 people, we're giving away a Popcorn Hour. Awesome. But the bigger news is the Linux Action Show, which is our long-format Linux podcast, is coming out this Sunday, which, depending on when you're watching that, is already come or past. It's March 1st, and we're going to be live streaming it on Saturday. If you just follow me on Twitter, you'll find out when the live stream is, but it's probably Saturday afternoon. The Linux Action Show is our big show, lots of listeners. And I know some of you out here on YouTube are new to it, so if you haven't yet listened to Linux Action Show, swing over to jupiterbroadcasting.com this Sunday and download it. It's a pretty good show. If you're interested in Linux, you're new to Linux, you're an old Linux pro, I think you'll like it. If you're just Linux curious, it's worth checking out. All right, I think that's everything I've got for you. Keep it geeky, and shoot me some feedback. Yeah, I think that's all I got.
This episode of An In-Depth Look is sponsored by GoDaddy.com, the world's largest host and domain name registrar. If you're ready to make an impact online, GoDaddy.com has got you covered. Domain names as low as $1.99, plus world-class hosting with unlimited disk space and bandwidth, do-it-yourself website builders, dedicated servers, and SSL certificates, and so much more. Plus, as an in-depth viewer, enter promo code Linux20 at checkout and save an additional 20% off any 1, 2, or even 3 years website hosting plan. Some restrictions apply. See site for details. Get your piece of the internet at GoDaddy.com.